This wasn't just love. It was a collision between two galaxies. Dr. Aira Vance had spent her entire adult life studying collisions, not of hearts, but of galaxies. As one of the youngest astrophysicists ever recruited to the Helion Observatory, she had become known for her unwavering focus and almost eerie calm. Celestial mechanics fascinated her more than people ever had. Stars merging, nebulae devouring each other, black holes threading existence like needle and thread, those were the dances she understood. So the irony did not escape her the day everything began, when she, the woman who trusted only in physics, felt the very first pull of something she could never measure. The observatory was stationed on Sera 9, a quiet research world suspended in the outer arm of the Kaelerian galaxy. Its skies were always clear, no weather, just a soft atmosphere maintained by regulators. Most nights, the horizon was awash with teal light from the nearby pulsar Marex, which rotated like a cosmic lighthouse. Aira stood on the outward-facing terrace, a transparent panel beneath her feet, giving the unsettling illusion that she floated in open space. She preferred to work alone, and her colleagues had long stopped trying to socialize with her. The data streams were enough company. The universe was loud if you knew how to listen. Tonight her calculations were focused on something extraordinary. The twin galaxies of Ralos Theta and Aspar Prime, two massive spirals, had gradually moved toward each other over the past billion years. Their collision wasn't expected for another millennia, yet strangely, gravitational fluctuations had increased far earlier than models predicted. Her simulations kept failing, collapsing into chaotic error. Something about this cosmic encounter was wrong. As she reviewed the data on her wrist console, a soft hum came from the terrace entrance. She felt a presence before she heard him speak. "You're out here again," said Kael Rennic, his voice low, almost melodic. "You should take breaks sometimes. Even the stars know how to rest." Aira turned with a sigh. Kael was a diplomat assigned to Sera 9 for 6 months, though he seemed to spend more time wandering the observatory than doing any sort of diplomatic work. He was annoyingly beautiful, silver hair that looked like it captured starlight, eyes the shade of drifting nebulae. His species, the Airalae, aged slowly and were rumored to be able to sense emotional resonance. She didn't believe in such tales, but his gaze always felt as if it pierced too deeply. "I don't need rest," she replied. "The galaxies aren't waiting for me to finish sleeping. Something's off with their approach vectors." Kael stepped beside her, looking up at the stunning vista of stars. "You know," he murmured, "sometimes collisions aren't destructive. Sometimes they create something new. Tell that to the civilizations caught in the gravitational shear." A small smile tugged at his lips. "You're not wrong." They stood in silence for a moment, the glass beneath them glowing softly. "You've been trouble for days," Kael finally said. "More than usual." "I'm not troubled," she snapped too quickly. His eyebrow lifted with amusement, but he said nothing. Aira turned back to the display. The numbers were wrong. The gravitational waves were spiking, like two dancers accelerating toward a step that hadn't been choreographed. "It feels like something is pulling them together," she whispered, half to herself. "Something external." Kael's expression changed subtly, almost imperceptibly. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Gravitational anomalies like this shouldn't happen unless something incredibly massive is influencing them. But there's no uncharted mass in that region. No rogue black holes. No dark clusters. Nothing that explains this." "Maybe not a physical mass," Kael said quietly. "There are other forces in the universe than gravity." She scoffed. "If you're about to bring up cosmic energy fields or emotional resonance." "I wasn't going to say emotions," he said, though he clearly wanted to. "Just keep an open mind. Not everything has been discovered yet." "You're infuriating," she muttered. "Correct," he answered lightly. And yet Aira couldn't deny something strange had been happening around him too. Since Kael's arrival on Sera 9, her simulations had begun to destabilize. Her heartbeat seemed out of sync with her own body. Her concentration fractured. It was ridiculous to think the two were connected. Impossible. And yet, the next week passed in a haze of anomalies. The gravitational waves between Ralos Theta and Aspar Prime grew so extreme that even other observatories across the quadrant began reporting them. Aira spent every hour she could spare running diagnostics, recalibrating sensors, and attempting to reconcile data that refused to obey physics. The galaxies weren't simply drifting toward each other, they were accelerating, as if some unseen force were dragging them into an unavoidable embrace. Even stranger, Kael grew more agitated by the day. One evening, she caught him standing alone in the central atrium, palms pressed against the glass as if trying to steady himself. "Kael," she asked. He startled slightly before turning. His eyes looked brighter, glowing faintly. "Aira, I need to tell you something. But I don't know how." "Now's a good time," she said, crossing her arms. He exhaled shakily. "My people can feel the energy between celestial structures. It's not mystical, it's biological. Our neural structures evolved in the radiation waves near our home star. We can sense harmonics, resonances, patterns. And I've been sensing the galaxies, too. Their approach, their pull." Aira stared. "You're telling me you can emotionally feel galaxies?" He closed his eyes. "I'm telling you I feel a force, a profound connection between them. They aren't moving randomly. This collision is inevitable. Destined." "Nothing is destined," she snapped. "Physics is math, not fate." He stepped toward her. "Then explain why the gravitational waves match patterns similar to emotional signatures." "That's absurd. Emotions don't influence galaxies." "Then why," he whispered, "do the wave patterns match the same frequencies produced by two resonant Aira hearts?" Aira froze. "That's not possible." "It shouldn't be," Kael said softly. "And yet it is. I checked 3 times. Her mouth went dry. "You're saying these galaxies are in love?" "That's a romantic interpretation," he admitted. "But in Aira terms, yes. They're linked, drawn to each other, resonating." Aira rubbed her temples. "You're insane. Or I am." But she couldn't shake the way her own chest tightened when Kael spoke. The way her pulse skipped, mirroring the anomalies in her research. Later that night, Aira ran a private comparison between the galaxy waves and her own biometrics over the past weeks. Her breath hitched. There was a perfect match. The galaxy's resonance peaks aligned exactly with her elevated heart activity that had begun the day Kael arrived. Her hands trembled. She pulled up Kael's biometrics. He had consented earlier for a medical scan after arriving. New diplomats always did. His emotional resonance levels, unique to Aira physiology, had spiked at the same times hers had. The galaxies follow the same rhythm. It didn't make sense. It couldn't. Unless they were somehow tapping into the emotional field created between her and Kael. She didn't believe in destiny. She didn't believe in cosmic romance. But the data was undeniable. The truth. Aira stormed into Kael's quarters. He looked up, startled, before she shoved her wrist console toward him. "The galaxy's wave patterns match our emotional resonance patterns," she said breathlessly. "Explain that." Kael's face softened with something painfully tender. "I was afraid you'd figure it out." "Afraid? Are you telling me we're somehow influencing galaxies?" "No," he took her hand gently. "The galaxies are influencing us." Her pulse thundered. "What?" Kael guided her to a seat, sitting across from her, his expression more serious than she had ever seen. "My people have legends," he began. "Old stories we never proved. Stories of celestial bonds, rare cosmic events where two massive structures align so perfectly that they generate a resonance field, an energy that echoes across light years, imprinting itself onto individuals who are emotionally open enough to perceive it." "I'm not emotionally open," she blurted. Kael gave her a soft, heartbreaking smile. "Aira, you are much more open than you think." She shook her head violently. "You think the galaxies are pushing us together? That we're, what? Echoes of their collision." "Not echoes," he whispered. "Reflections." The room felt too small, too warm, too close. "So this isn't us feeling something real," she forced out. "It's just cosmic interference." Kael's eyes darkened. "Is that truly all you think it is?" Aira opened her mouth, and nothing came out. She didn't know. She didn't want to know. Not tonight. She fled before he could say another word. The collision approaches. In the days that followed, she threw herself into her research, trying desperately to disprove everything Kael had said. But every test, every simulation, every data point only confirmed it. The resonance between the galaxies intensified whenever she and Kael were near each other. The gravitational waves spiked when her heartbeat accelerated. The energy fields fluctuated when Kael's emotions shifted. It was as if the galaxies were using them, conducting through them. Or maybe they were simply mirroring the galaxies' own unstoppable attraction. A terrifying thought crept in. What if this was real on both levels? What if the galaxies were colliding because of their own nature, and she and Kael were experiencing the same pull on a vastly smaller scale? The night before the galaxies began their inevitable final descent toward each other, Kael found her alone in the observation dome. She didn't turn as he approached. "You feel it, don't you?" he murmured. Aira's voice cracked. "I don't want to." "Why?" "Because I don't know where I end and the galaxies begin," she said, trembling. "Because I don't know if these feelings are mine." Kael gently rested a hand over hers. She didn't pull away. "Maybe they aren't separate," he said. "Maybe that's the point." She finally turned to him. "What happens when the galaxies collide?" she whispered. "What happens to us?" Kael's eyes glistened. "Galaxies don't die in collisions," he said softly. "They create new stars." Her breath hitched. The dome lights dimmed as the galaxies, visible as enormous glowing spirals in the distance, began to overlap, brilliant tendrils of light reaching into each other. The resonance hit them like a wave. Aira gasped as her heart surged with emotion. Fear, awe, longing, desire, all blending into something immense and ancient. Kael's fingers tightened around hers. "Aira," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Tell me this isn't the galaxies. Tell me this is yours." Tears filled her eyes. "It's both," she breathed. "But it's mine too." He kissed her then, and the galaxies shuddered in response, two cosmic oceans merging into one brilliant sea of light. Ending. Months passed after the collision. The galaxy cluster now shimmered with millions of newborn stars, glowing like sparks from some celestial forge. Astronomers called it the Vance Rennic confluence, naming it after the two researchers who had first predicted its anomalous behavior. Aira hated the attention, but Kael teased her endlessly about it. The resonance field finally subsided, leaving only a soft echo, one that lived in her chest whenever she looked at him. One quiet evening, Aira stood again on the terrace, gazing out at the newborn star fields. Kael joined her, slipping his hand into hers. "It's quieter now," he murmured. "Yes," she said, "but not empty." He smiled. "Love rarely is." Aira leaned her head against his shoulder. "Do you think," she asked softly, "that the galaxies really chose us?" Kael kissed her hair. "I think the galaxies reflected what was already there." She let out a breath that felt like the first true exhale of her life. Maybe love was its own kind of collision. Two lives pulled together by forces unseen, reshaping each other, creating new light where none had existed before. As the stars of the confluence glittered around them, Aira finally understood. This wasn't just love. It was a collision between two galaxies, both cosmic and utterly, painfully human.